Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist, transformational leadership coach, and CEO of the Mastering Your Mind coaching and consulting company. And there's something that I want to talk about today that I think if you're watching this isn't just going to make sense for you intellectually. I think it's going to land in your body like a truth. Okay. So there is a very specific moment that happens right before someone's life expands. And most people misunderstand it. So if you can see what's possible for your life so clearly that it actually hurts that you're not living that yet, this message is for you. So if you've spent a lot of your life feeling like you're a lot, maybe you've been told that you're too intense or too sensitive or too deep or too driven or too questioning. What if none of that is a problem? What if those feelings are actually blinking red indication signs that your life is about to expand? So what if you've been calling this thing that you feel is something wrong with you? What if that is actually the architecture of who you're meant to become? What if your inability to fit into the life that other people fit into is not a defect? What if it's proof that you've outgrown the version of life that you've been living? So I can tell you that every single person that I work with, they are carrying something. They aren't just trying to feel better. They're carrying within them a calling, a pressure, a vision, a sense of destiny that they can't unknow once it wakes up inside of them. And the most painful part of that is that they feel stuck. They feel like they can't get from where they are to where they want to be. And that is because their automatic mind, that's the mind I call your inner critic self, that mind has convinced them that those very qualities that are signaling expansion, their depth, their sensitivity, their hunger for meaning, their refusal to settle, they believe that those things are things that they need to tone down or to change in order to feel safe and comfortable right now. If you are in a space in your life where you've got this vision, but you've got a lot of inner discomfort, maybe that is exactly what is meant to show up right before you're meant to expand into a new self and a new life. So today, we're going to walk through this using the mind method. So we're going to M step, meet the voice that's been trying to protect you by keeping you small and in the known and familiar. We're going to investigate the indication signs that prove to you that you're standing at the edge of an old identity, and that identity is trying to hold on to you for dear life. We're going to talk about neutralizing the never-ending message that keeps playing on a loop that has you keep doubting yourself. And we're going to talk about what it means to design the next version of you. You know, that you can already feel emerging and calling you into this different life. Because when a life is about to expand, it doesn't feel comfortable. It feels very uncomfortable. So I want to talk about my own story because I'm not speaking from somebody that has gotten beyond this. I'm speaking from the path that I'm currently on. I did not start out as the woman that I am now. I was in private practice as a psychotherapist. I was seeing one person at a time. That was the lane, that was my identity. And yet I had this deep, persistent knowing that I was meant to make a bigger impact. There was something in me that refused to settle. And I used to think, what's wrong with me that I can't be fulfilled and satisfied with where I am? Right. And then when I started reaching for that vision, my inner critic started telling me it's probably not going to happen for me. I'm not business savvy. I'm not tech savvy. And therefore, I really don't have that it factor. So I waited. I waited for the version of me who would finally be ready. And I'll tell you something, she still hasn't arrived, and she never will. Because ready is not something you wait for, it's something you walk yourself into. Now, that old identity didn't come out of nowhere. I was an only child in a home with some emotional unpredictability between my parents, high highs, low lows. And as a little girl, I learned to become hyper vigilant. I didn't know that that's what I learned. But looking back, I was always scanning for everybody's moods. I was always reading the room and always trying to prevent the other shoe from dropping. So that pattern became the architecture of my identity. And it actually made me very successful. It made me perceptive. It made me attuned. It made me an excellent therapist and coach. But it also capped how big I could grow because that identity needed control. That identity needed to know how it was all going to go. That identity needed emotional predictability. So anything that threatened that, visibility, expansion, leadership, my inner critic self treated that like danger. So I created the mind method first for me because I knew that I needed to unhook from that identity. I needed to stop letting my mind that was running on autopilot run my life. And I needed to build from a different self. And the truth is that that old identity never disappears. Once you realize that you are separate from it, that's when you stop listening to it. That's when you no longer let it get in the way of you reaching for your dreams. Now, over the years of practicing the mind method for myself, practicing this in the work that I've done with thousands of people, I've built a life that my younger self wouldn't have believed was possible. Never would I have believed that I would have a best-selling book, a podcast that reaches thousands of people, a worldwide coaching company, an ICF accredited certification program, never in my wildest dreams. And still, the biggest expansion wasn't writing the book. It wasn't creating the podcast. Those things were all uncomfortable and led to what is now something that my inner critic continues to scream about, which is creating a global accreditation program. Sorry, go back. What my inner critic still screams about is that my vision is an accredited certification program that reaches 100 coaches a year. So with every step I took, every expansion that I moved into, my inner critic got louder. And finally, this past year, submitting my work to the highest professional standard in the world, which is the International Coaches Federation, my inner critic was screaming louder than ever before because she was terrified of expansion and exposure. Now, if I didn't have this work, I never would have been able to make that a reality because the doubt was there. I did not wait for the doubt to disappear. I built that program with the doubt in my mind because that's what designing a new identity actually looks like. So when you're meant for more, your inner critic is not going to cheer you on. It's going to tighten that leash because expansion feels dangerous to an identity that's been designed for predictability and control and staying safe. So notice what your inner critic says about your bigness. You're too much. This is unrealistic. People are going to know that you don't know what you're talking about. You are delusional. Who do you think you are? Now, that voice does not mean you're off track. It means you are at the edge of an old identity, and that old identity is fighting tooth and nail for its existence. So that's where you have to meet that voice. Now, let's talk about the indication signs because your body never lies, right? So the signs your body is giving you that you are meant for more. You feel deeply, and people don't know what to do with those deep feelings. You can't stop asking why. And your system literally revolts when you betray yourself. You may have also outgrown certain people in your life. You may have outgrown certain environments. You may have outgrown a profession that you've spent 20 years building or more. And you may be carrying a persistent sense that you're meant to contribute something more meaningful. And all of that makes you very uncomfortable. That discomfort is unexpressed potential asking to live. These are all your blinking red indication signs. So let's talk about neutralizing the never-ending message that keeps you stuck. Okay? Because you're not stuck because you don't have what it takes. You're stuck because there's a part of you that's waiting for permission. So you need to be able to talk to your inner critic self. You need to be able to say to that other self that lives inside of you, I know you're trying to protect me, but you don't get to make the decisions anymore. And then you want to talk to the version of you that is pulling you forward. You want to actually allow your inner critic self to do all the things it's already doing, to scream at you, to tell you to stop, to tell you to be careful, to tell you you don't know what you're doing. And you want to tune into the future you that's pulling you from where you are and guiding you step by step by step into who you're meant to be. Because that kind of depth and that kind of growth is not meant to keep you safe. It's actually meant to move through you. So the D step, design your life. I want you to understand that if you keep waiting for your fear to disappear, your life will never change. Your life changes when your fear stops being the authority. So designing your life looks like no longer apologizing for that depth and creating new containers instead of shrinking your vision. It looks like becoming visible so that you are a beacon of light for others to stop hiding. And the only thing that separates you from the people that don't step into their bigger visions is that you're willing. So here's my invitation to you. Ask yourself, what is my inner critic calling a problem that my authentic self already knows is actually my calling? What would change if you stopped asking for permission and you started living like this is already a done deal? This is already happening. What if you were able to really embody that future self and that future vision right now, even while that inner critic self was telling you you're not enough, you don't know enough, and no one is going to believe what you have to say? Because all of that is just noise. You are not a mistake in the system. You are the upgrade. So the world needs your upgrade. The world needs the original you that you were born to be. Thank you for tuning in today, and I will see you in the next episode.